Hello there. Thank you so much for joining us. This is News Channel Nebraska. My name's Eric McKay. Let's take a look at our top headlines today. Beginning in central Nebraska, where a Kearney man is fighting for his life after police say he was shot by a woman who lives with him. The shooting happened Sunday afternoon in central Kearney. A news release says officers arrested 56-year-old Karen Geisler outside the house. Police say the victim, a 62-year-old man who lives with Geisler. He was hospitalized with life-threatening injuries. Geisler faces felony assault and weapons charges. Authorities tell us investigators are still processing the scene. Police say the incident was isolated and there's no ongoing threat to the public. What was initially reported as a possible house explosion sent firefighters to a Beatrice neighborhood Sunday evening. Beatrice Fire and Rescue Chief Brian Dakey said fire and police spoke with neighbors about the blast.
Basically, there was an explosion of some kind. At this time, we're not sure what it is. It does not appear to be utilities related, whether it's gas or the sewer system or anything along those lines. So we've got a state arson investigator coming in to double check.
The explosion apparently happened between two homes along the east side of 16th, a short distance north of 16th and High. Sent material across the street. Shrapnel punched a hole in some siding near the front door of the home. Damage was also done to the siding of a house along the east side of the street. No major structural damage was done. There was no fire. Still not clear what caused the blast, though. No one was injured. A collision yesterday afternoon in North Beatrice, meanwhile, sent police and fire to the scene. Two vehicles collided at 6th and Monroe. 3 people were possibly injured. The collision involved an SUV and a sedan. Both vehicles came to rest along the northbound lanes of 6th Street. The accident shut down the intersection for northbound traffic until officials could clear the scene. No other details about how the accident happened were immediately available. Residents in a central Nebraska town being told to boil their water. City officials in Fullerton say their water system has tested positive for E. coli. They say the water is safe to use for cleaning, laundry, and dishes, but it is not suitable for drinking. A chlorination process has begun. City officials say that will likely take a week. In the meantime, the city distributed free cases of water to residents on Sunday. Well, in response to multiple recent officer-involved shootings, police in Omaha now requiring officers to complete additional use of force training. In a news release Friday, Omaha Police Chief Todd Schmatter said all OPD officers will take a simulation training called Shoot, Don't Shoot. Police say it's designed to enhance the decision-making in high-stress scenarios. The simulation will be in addition to the annual in-service training Omaha police already take part in. The mandate comes after the recent shooting deaths of 22-year-old Stephen Phipps Jr. and 37-year-old Cameron Ford. Omaha police already halted their no-knock warrant policy and fired a police officer in the wake of Ford's death. Well, they're labeled top secret, but somehow they ended up online. A recent leak of highly classified U.S. intelligence documents is causing security concerns. Amy Kiley has more on the efforts to find out who obtained them and how.
The breach is serious.
The U.S. is investigating a recent leak of highly classified documents, House Speaker Mike Johnson has confirmed.
The leak is very concerning. There's some serious allegations being made there, investigation underway.
The documents contain what appears to be U.S. intelligence on Israeli plans to strike Iran. A source familiar with them says they're authentic. It's unclear how they ended up on Telegram and began circulating publicly online Friday. The FBI is likely tasked with finding out, alongside the Pentagon and intelligence agencies.
We don't want to see it repeated, and we don't know who has access to it, who might want to repeat it again.
The documents appear to be intended only for certain officials in the U.S., Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and the U.K. Analysts say they're ending up online instead could make Israel hesitant to share future intelligence. Some experts think that could harm American interests in the Middle East.
We have troops in the region. We need to have prior notice in terms of what the Israelis are planning so we can protect our troops in the response as well.
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
Nebraska is seeing competing abortion measures this November. Simply put, one measure would create a right to abortion while another would restrict it. But what happens if they both pass? Abortion rights supporters gathered initiative signatures for a proposed constitutional amendment 439 that would create a fundamental right to abortion until fetal viability or when needed to protect the life or health of a pregnant woman without interference from the state. Fetal viability generally considered to be sometime after 20 weeks. The amendment similar to abortion rights measures going before voters in 8 other states. Abortion opponents, meanwhile, pursued their own initiative, 434, to essentially enshrine the current law into the Constitution. That measure would prohibit abortion in the second and third trimesters, except in medical emergencies or pregnancies resulting from sexual assault or incest. The Nebraska Constitution, meanwhile, says if they both pass, the winning measure with the most votes would become law. Candidates going full steam ahead with the election just weeks away now. Vice President Kamala Harris on Saturday campaigned in Michigan and Georgia. Former President Donald Trump held a rally in Pennsylvania, and early voting is underway in many states, including key battleground Georgia, which has seen record turnout. Rob Kirkpatrick has more.
The race for the White House is heating up as the final weekends of the campaign draw near. With just 17 days until Election Day, both Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump are rallying voters in key battleground states, including Michigan.
So many things happened in Detroit, and it's been treated so badly, and they've been talking about comebacks for so long, but we're going to bring it back better than it ever was.
And now Donald Trump is making the same empty promises to the people of Michigan that he did before.
The stakes in these closing weeks couldn't be higher. CNN's poll of polls shows no clear leader in the presidential race, with likely voters supporting Harris at an average of 50%, while 49% prefer Trump. Voting is already underway in 42 states with more than 11 million ballots cast so far. The key battleground state of Georgia saw record turnout on the first day of early voting.
I think everyone realizes this is probably one of the most important elections they're going to have in years. And then when they get it done.
I wasn't even really thinking about voting early, except for the fact that my daughter's back from college for fall break. So I just figured I'd go with her.
And both candidates are targeting early voters in a race that is razor thin.
Early voting is underway, so get everyone you know and go out and vote.
I think it's great that people are turning out and voting and being active.
I'm Rob Kirkpatrick reporting.
Vice presidential candidate Tim Walz was back in the Omaha Metro campaigning over the weekend. The afternoon rally on Saturday marked the second time the Nebraska native traveled back to the area since he was announced as Kamala Harris's running mate. Walz arrived in Nebraska's so-called potential blue dot after a separate campaign stop in Chicago. He addressed a local campaign reception before a rally in Papillion. Meanwhile, the Trump campaign also hosted an event in Omaha Saturday. Former third-party presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard spoke at a Reclaim America Tour event that was held downtown at Hilton, Omaha. The Biden administration proposing what it calls the most significant expansion of contraception coverage under the Affordable Care Act. It would give easier access to over-the-counter contraception like Plan B, spermicide, and O-pill. Right now, most private health plans cover the costs of contraception, but they often require a prescription. The new rule would eliminate that need for a prescription. Insurers would also have to cover all FDA-approved drugs and drug-led combination products. Older Americans reported losing nearly $2 billion to fraud last year. That's according to the Federal Trade Commission's annual report on protecting older Americans. The report highlights trends based on fraud reports by adults ages 60 and older. Bank transfers and cryptocurrency like Bitcoin ATM machines were the most common methods of payment used in the scams. The actual amount older adults lost to fraud likely higher than $2 billion. The FTC estimates it could be more than $60 billion because of the majority of frauds are never reported. A STEM education hub getting a big financial boost from a local company. Northeast Community College in Norfolk has announced that Nucor's 4 Nebraska divisions have pledged $250,000 to the college's iHub. The iHub planned for downtown Norfolk. College officials say it'll house woods, metals, and prototype labs for community use, as well as electromechanical and industrial automation spaces to support workforce development. The site will also host youth STEM and robotics camps, which are put on by Nucor. The iHub is expected to open in the spring of 2026. And the Girl Scouts of the USA raising membership dues 160% over the next 2 years. The National Council voted to hike prices from $25 to $45 in 2026. Those dues will increase again in 27 to $65 per scout. It's still a smaller increase than the $85 than was originally proposed. Membership dues, the organization's largest source of revenue last year, they generated $38 million from nearly 2 million members. But the Girl Scouts has faced cash flow issues stemming from the pandemic, inflation, and changing consumer behaviors. And you can stay up to date with the very latest by following us online. Head to newschannelnebraska.com and click on the News tab there. You can also follow us on X, like us on Facebook and Instagram as well. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. You're watching News Channel Nebraska.